What do horrors, horror, and candy have in common? You're going to have to stick around to find out. Hey guys, it's Katie, your host of Faith at Work, and this episode is all about, you guessed it, Halloween. Okay, we're going to talk about, horrors was a mean word. That's just a mean word, okay? I don't think that people who dress up as horrors on Halloween are actually horrors. So I'm just going to start by saying that. But I am going to talk about Halloween, and it might not be what you thought. Maybe you were thinking, does she buy the big candy bar or the little candy bar? Which, by the way, if I was going to participate in Halloween, I would make sure that I was like the coolest family that had the full-size candy bars. So I just want to put that straight up. I don't know if you've had a Snicker bars in a while, but like the only Snickers that I had eaten in the last like 10 years was those stupid little ones on Halloween when I would buy the big bag of candy or 2 or 3 just in case we had kids coming, and I live in Naples, Florida. So the answer to kids coming to my door is an absolute no. But instead, I would buy 3 bags just in case, and then we would end up eating like all of the Halloween candy, okay? And I'm talking the little tiny bars. I thought that's what a Snickers tasted like. Then one day, I was on a plane and Anthony had bought a Snickers bar, like a real one. And I'm telling you, stop eating the little Snickers. Okay, we're getting way off track, but stop eating the little Snickers and go eat a real adult size like a real Snickers bar, and you will know what I'm talking about. It is unbelievable. So what are we talking about? We're talking about Halloween. And the reason that we're bringing this up is that biblically, we are not going to participate in Halloween as a brokerage or as a podcast. So this is something that kind of weighed on me after college. And Val has her own story. It weighed on her way sooner than for me. So after college, I was at Madison, Wisconsin, and I was a bartender. And if you know anything about Madison, Wisconsin, you know that A, it's one of the most liberal places in the whole world. We'll get to that on another episode. And B, we have the most like Halloween party that you could ever dream of. Like 30,000 extra kids come to Madison for Halloween. It's a huge, huge party. So I would bartend on that night. And what happened after this one year where there were a bunch of fires and vandalism and all that, I mean, why would there be fires and vandalism on a day you're just like, hoping that everyone is celebrating demons? I don't know. But all that happened the year before. So this one year I'm bartending and we close the bar at 2 a.m. and everyone kind of goes out into the street. And usually on a typical weekend night, everyone goes to Qdoba and they go get like different tacos and things like that. And everyone kind of hangs out and eats on the street. It's just how Madison is. So on this night though, we turn the lights, like we basically like lock the door, the last person is out, and all of a sudden outside were these bright white lights. It was unbelievable. Like we were like, what is going on? And all of these police officers were with tear gas, putting the tear gas over the top of the buildings and forcing people. Madison, you need to get out on the different streets. They were forcing thousands, tens of thousands of people all into the same place that ends at this hill on like the main campus of Madison. And then you have to split left and right. So they're basically like just coming down the street. We had people like banging, like trying to get into the bar. It was unbelievable. Like I've never seen anything like it. And people aren't dressed for that. They aren't dressed to be like tear gas. Like everyone's half naked, like crying. They like their makeup is all over the place. And I was like, whoa, I never want to be here for a Halloween again. And it really made me start thinking of like, why are they so strict on Halloween? And what we looked up is the statistics on Halloween is that 50% more violent crimes happen on Halloween. Get that in your head. That is 2 times the daily average of violent crimes happen on Halloween. There's something demonic about Halloween. Like you would come to that conclusion, I would think, and we'll go through some things that kind of get us there. Because when you're celebrating something that is basically having people like put masks on and carry axes and have blood spread all over their faces and we'll talk about this with Val because I know something that she mentioned is all of these people start promoting all these horror movies and everybody's going to these disgusting movies that are basically just killing people and you're being exposed to all that. And me personally, I'm like a little kid at the movies. Like I actually prefer like Little Mermaid, the original Little Mermaid. I prefer Little Mermaid over like a horror movie any day of the week. And Child's Play is seriously why all of my dolls ended up having to like be thrown in the garbage one day, is because I literally thought all of my dolls were gonna like come to life and kill me. That's not healthy, you guys. So not only dolls started to be scary, but those movies start to get in your head. The more you start to see people get beat, I mean, beat up, killed, murdered, screaming, attacked in their homes. Like, I think that's the big thing with horror movies for me, is it really makes you feel uncomfortable in your own home, because that's when that's happening, right? Like the woman is like watching a movie, she has her popcorn, and then all of a sudden this thing goes off and she's like, what is that? And this is like the girl who ends up getting chased around and murdered, right? Like, why are we watching this? Why are we putting this in our brains? We're supposed to be protecting everything that goes into what God gave us, which is starting in the eyes, and it starts in our thoughts as well. So those things start to put thoughts into your life and you start speaking about them, and that is only going to cause destruction. So another thing that happens on property crime, vandalism, drunk driving, pedestrian fatalities. Everyone's running around the streets. So the crime that happens on Halloween is just one reason to never go out on Halloween again. But it's also just that we're putting ourselves in these positions where all of the women, like, I know you guys already know this, so it's like a broken record of, are you going to be the nurse or the naughty nurse? I don't think there's even a nurse costume anymore. It's like, are you a naughty nurse? Someone comes in, they're half naked and they have little ears on. You're like, what are you? Like, I'm a naughty kitty. You know, like everything is naughty for the women. And I think it's putting women on display in a really bad way, because it's not like that thing where, I'm not somebody who says if you wore a certain thing, you deserved what you got, because I know that there's a whole culture around that where it's like, okay, you were half naked and then someone assaulted you, you deserved it. I'm sorry, you never, ever deserve to be assaulted or messed with or treated badly. You're never dressed a certain way that you should be getting that feedback back from men or women. So let me say that about like even using the word whore. Dressing a certain way does not equal you being a whore. Dressing a certain way does not equal you being putting yourself in a worse situation to get battered or beaten or assaulted, okay? So I just want to say that. And like something that happened recently with immigration and all these people coming over the border is they'll list out that someone was assaulted and then they'll put what they had on, right? It's like, I don't care what the girl was wearing. I care what happened to her. So on Halloween, you don't deserve it for wearing it, but it increases, right? So crimes increase on Halloween. People are drinking more. People are outside at worse hours, like later hours where they've been drinking for longer times. So if you're a woman who is dressed like with little things covering like her, can I say nipples? With little things covering her nipples, which by the way, we'll get into cakes later. We'll talk about actually covering your nipples if you want to be a nice lady. But in general, if you're wearing something that's barely covering you and you're going out and then you're drinking a lot of alcohol, you may not want it, but you're going to get some negative attention. So that's something that I'll say straight up is you don't deserve it, but be someone on the streets that is covered up and is acting in a way that you would act on a regular day, even if it wasn't Halloween. So if you want to be like a cute Barbie or a cute Girl Scout or whatever, I think that you can be cute. You don't necessarily have to be the slutty, the naughty, or basically be half naked. I think this also like messes with people with body image issues. Like, how many of you are struggling with body issues and then you don't even want to go to a Halloween party? I mean, it's like, you can't even imagine, because every single girl, like I know for me, I love that my husband wants me covered up. Like, not because I'm his property or he has any weird thing with me personally. It's that he wants me for him. My body and me being sexy and anything that goes on with me physically, that is for me and my husband. That's not for everyone for display, right? It's not so that I can go someplace and be like, hey babe, don't I look sexy for everybody else? Everybody is seeing you and thinking about sex. You don't want that. I mean, whether you think you do because you like get like a little confidence boost for it or something, I'm telling you, you do not want other people's husbands, boyfriends, and random kids looking at you sexually if you really care about yourself and your relationships. If you're not married, same thing. who do you want attracted to you even on Halloween? Like, put in the comments too if you actually met your husband on Halloween and what you were wearing. That would actually be really interesting to find out. Like, well, actually, I was a naughty kitty and I did meet my husband and we've been together for 20 years and have 4 kids and we're perfectly married. Probably not a lot of people are going to have that story, but it'd be really interesting to have that story. So anyway, so if you're dressing a certain way, I love that when I'm at a party and I'm at a Halloween thing, I'm dressed like me. I'm not going to participate in Halloween. But even if I was at this point in my life, I would be covered up because I'm not there to be displayed for others. And I hope that you start feeling like that about yourself. So if you're having body issues and you're thinking about going to a party, you're also thinking about your partner, right? Like you are thinking about, I don't want to be in a certain outfit because it's going to show this or that, but all of the other women at this party are probably going to be half naked and my significant other is going to be with me. That's not an insecure thing that's just your problem, right? That's a problem that your man is going to have to stand there and be exposed to all these people's bodies. I mean, Anthony looked at me one time, we were at something, and he's like, I basically have seen that lady naked. Like, that's disgusting. He felt bad about standing next to me and having to look at this lady that's like putting it all out there. And you're like, yeah, that's wrong. It is wrong to be exposing yourself to other people's significant others or other random single people. It's just, I think you should really start looking at that as why are you doing that? And start thinking about what you want to change in your life to make sure that you don't feel like you have to be naked to be appreciated or to be confident in front of men, women, or other people's partners. Because I think that's what happens on Halloween. Like when people are like, hey, do you want to come to our Halloween party? I'm like, first of all, no, I don't like going out on Halloween. But second of all, I don't want to be exposed to naked people. Call me prude. So let's get to prude. So I am kind of prude when it comes to TV even. I personally, not only do I not like watching violence, I'm like one of those people that my husband actually gets annoyed a little bit because anytime something starts to happen, I'm like this. I'm like, okay, is it over? And I can't hear him because I've got my, and I'm like, no, is it over? No, okay, is it over? I'm sitting there like eyes closed. I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be able to picture it in my head. I don't want to be able to pull it and see it later because that's what's happening. Whether you're getting porn sent to you from your friends and you're just like innocently opening it on your phone, or you're watching a horror movie, or you're watching something like that's inappropriate, that is in your brain. That's in your soul. That is like the devil coming to steal and destroy you because it's something that like you can't shake it. I've seen things I can't shake. I don't know about you, Val. Have you seen things that you like can't shake?
100%. Yeah. So many things that I'm like, if I had never seen that, my life would be better for it.
Exponentially better, right? Like if you didn't have to expose yourself to those things, your life would be better. And I'm telling you, like we've been watching faith flicks. So Pure Flicks, it's like all faith-based. So it's called Pure Flicks. It's different than Netflix because everything on there has a pure, like real faith-based, or is not going to be nudity. It's not going to have violence. Like I can't think of the guy on he was on Yellowstone. It's the guy with like the beautiful like piercing blue eyes and like the blonde hair. Anyways, this guy, I don't know if you know this, but this actor, he's always cast as like the mean like psychopath. And I was always like, why is he always, he's like he's like a beautiful man. Like why is he always like cast as this? It's because he refuses to kiss or do any sex scenes with women that are not his wife. How cool is that? So that drastically changed his career, but it's something to think about with like what we're seeing and what we're putting into our lives. Like he's not going to let that into his life. Just like you have a choice. Like I was watching, hi, my name's Katie, and I was liking Love Island. Love Island is awful, right? Like you might like Love Island. Love Island is not doing anything positive for me as a woman, as a faith-based person, as a wife. It is literally like not filling me in any way. It's not making me a better person. And I was almost like wanting to see what was next. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that girl. Look at that crazy guy. Look at that relationship. And I had to like stop putting that into my body. Because that's what's happening is everything you watch is going into your body and you are able to recall it at any time. And it does start to change how you feel about things around you. And that's something with porn. Like we'll probably do a whole episode on porn because this is about Halloween. But porn is like the same thing where it is literally taking relationships and making them impossible. Porn is the reason that you are not happy with your wife or your husband, and it is something that is drastically going to have to change in our lifetime in order to have real positive sexual relationships with people, especially married people. You can't mix those two things. So every men's event that my husband goes to at church is about porn and about getting that stuff out of your mind. So same thing with Halloween. It's like getting the horror movies out of your mind, getting half naked women. Like if all of your friends at a party were nicely dressed, even if they were like doing some kind of character dress, it'd be okay. But instead you're going to go there and there's definitely going to be like the girl who just broke up with her husband with like everything out, right? Like she's on the prowl for your husband, even though she doesn't think that, like in her heart, she might not be going for your husband, and your husband wouldn't do that, but she's putting it out there. So when I started talking to Val about Halloween, I basically said, don't make a Halloween post for our brokerage. And she agreed. She was like, I do not participate in Halloween. So I want to pull Val in because I had that experience at Madison that kind of shifted my view of Halloween and started making me think of like, why is this such a like demonic night? And she had a completely different experience.
Yeah, so for me, Halloween, like when I was the way I was raised, it wasn't really involved at all. Like we didn't go trick or treating. I think it's partially that my dad's really antisocial, but also just we felt like it was weird. And so we would shut down the house and we would all watch a movie together, or we would go to like a trunk and treat experience, or trunk or treat, which happens a lot of times at churches. And so we would go there and it would be a very like Christian experience. But something about the whole thing struck me as so weird. And part of it is that I was a weird kid and I felt weird about candy. Like ever since I was little, I'm like, this is just sugar. This doesn't feel good to eat. Like I'll eat it and it tastes good, but it doesn't feel good. So part of it is that the entire basis of it is like, I don't know what to call them besides, dopamine fueled activities. Like you're dressing up, you feel different, you're going around, you're getting scared, you're eating candy, which is terrible for you. Like it feels like a whole holiday surrounding fast flashes of feeling good that actually result in you feeling kind of empty.
Wow. Well, that's like mic drop, like feeling empty after eating awesome candy and like looking so cute. And it's like she said, you're not looking like you. You're not acting like you. You're not eating like you usually eat. Like how many people just let their kids eat bags of candy? It's not happening. How many adults are eating bags of like leftover Halloween candy? Like it's actually everything that is good is taken out of Halloween. Like if you actually tried to like change our mind, right? Charlie Kirk, change our mind, or Steven Crowder with Mug Club and all that. It's always like, all right, Halloween is awful. Change my mind. Halloween has something good to offer. Change my mind. Like it doesn't have anything positive to add because you're basically filling yourself with garbage, looking like garbage, and then expecting people to what? Like think it's okay. Everyone does. So that's another thing with our society right now is we're basically making everything that's evil good and everything that's good evil. And when we do that, there's a really slippery slope, right? Like, of course I'm going to look like a slut on Halloween. Like, of course I'm going to get the naughty this or the naughty that. It's like people don't even second guess that. It's not like, oh, I probably shouldn't do that because I'm going to be around a bunch of families, or maybe I shouldn't be wearing this because kids are coming to my house for candy. Like the way that moms are dressed up for these little kids to come to their house for candy, it's like, it's kind of crazy. So it's like, you can be like, oh, she's judgmental or they're judgmental, or like, I grew up trick-or-treating. I wasn't Val. I wasn't like born where we were like watching this nice wholesome movie for Halloween. Like we were going for it, like I'm a competitor. I'm going for the most candy in the least amount of time. Like I'm going to hit as many houses, neighborhoods. Like where's the best candy? Let's go. I mean, I was like really into Halloween as a kid, and I didn't look at it the same way. When I was a kid, it was like it was part of what is social and fun. As an adult, you can start making different choices, right? And it doesn't mean you can't let your kids dress up for Halloween at school. Your little kids that are 8 and 9 years old dressing up as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is probably not the biggest problem in the whole world. It's that slippery slope. It's like, what can you tell kids not to wear, right? Like, I don't even know if schools do that, where they're like, hey, you can't wear masks and demon outfits and you can't have blood spread on your clothes. Like, they might be doing that at some schools, and then at other schools, it's probably a free-for-all. It's just like there's a dress code at my school growing up. Like we had to wear a skirt and a collared shirt and it had to be tucked in. And if it wasn't tucked in, you got a detention or whatever. It was like all these little point systems of like, she had a shirt on that wasn't tucked in. And then there were other schools where like literally the girls were half naked, right? So I wouldn't count on society to dictate what happens in your home and happens in your life. That's going to be in your control. So for us, we're going to say no to Halloween. We're going to say no to candy. Are we saying no to candy?
Candy is okay. And I do want to say for the outfits too, like I know we've put a lot of emphasis on like the slutty outfits, which are very, very normalized. But like for me, once I got into Halloween, because I did get into Halloween I mean, everybody does. We all go to high school, I was always, even when I was like at my hottest or whatever, I would always try to be like irreverent, funny costumes. Like I was never in the slutty circuit because I was just like, and even then, I think something about it was like the obsession I had with like, let's try to be cool and sick and better than who I normally am tonight. And that was something else of like the normalization of you pretending to be someone you aren't. And I know it's like, it's a little bit, because I don't think necessarily a kid dressing up as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I don't think it's going to ruin their life.
Yeah.
But it's like you're saying, it's a slope of starting to be accepting of you trying to be someone that you're not. And it sucks.
Man, yeah, you gotta like, everyone has it on such a different level. You know what I mean? Like thinking of it that way, where you're trying to almost escape who you are and be someone better, sexier, different, whatever. Like I was a hot dog, you know what I mean? Like I agree. Like I would do certain things, but I was like, a Girl Scout and things like that. Like I've done a bunch of the outfits. But hearing you say that really triggered that for me, where it was like, yeah, people are trying in everything, with alcohol, with masks, like everyone is trying to cover up. I know during COVID, I think half the people were happy about it because they got to hide. Like I was talking to a couple of stewardess that work on, like I was talking to some people on a plane, and the girls walked by and they're like, yeah, we loved when we had to wear masks, because it's like if someone was being rude to them, they couldn't see their face, right? Like you don't really see and get to interact with people if they're wearing a mask. And so I would attribute that same kind of thing to Halloween. It's like you're putting on this facade like you're happy or you're sexy or you're this or you're that, but like deep down, it doesn't actually change anything. And I know it's for a day. So it's like we can take this deep, or we could take this really surface level. Surface level is if you're going to dress a certain way, you're going to be treated a certain way. And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And it doesn't mean you deserved it. It just means that it is a fact that if you're dressed a certain way, you're going to get treated a certain way. Same thing with, I was at the Jared James event the other day in Orlando, and it was really creepy at the end of the event when we were heading to go to our cars at the end of the event. It was like some kind of demonic like thing was happening. Like there was some kind of event or dinner or something that was happening right after us. And it was like costume after costume. And it wasn't the costumes, you guys. It was the way that the people, they were taking on this persona. And it made me just totally agree with this 50% more crime in the fact that these people were like taking on this demonic, like when they put it on, they were like trying to get you to be scared. And like that's the other thing about like haunted houses and things like that, where they're trying to scare people. They're taking that facade and like it almost empowers them to be evil. Right? Like it's making these people feel like it's okay to be evil and to take on this persona like, oh, it's not real. Well, it is real. You're really looking at me that way. You're really trying to make me feel a certain way. So it is a real thing that you are doing, whether you think you're just dressed up for fun or not. Like you are going to affect people. And the Bible verse that we wanted to focus on today is Ephesians 5:11. Take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. And so what I want to say about the unfruitful works of darkness, like what does participating in Halloween, what kind of fruit does that bear, right? Like what are you sowing into the world by participating in an event that is focusing on death, murder, fear, and sluttiness? And it's like everything bad, candy, sugar, right? Every single thing that Halloween focuses on is darkness. And when we're participating in that, we're not participating with God, because we cannot participate with God and the devil at the same time. So whether you're looking at this at a very surface level, I want you to just dig in a little bit. I'm not saying change your whole life. I'm not saying you have to think that everyone who's dressed up a certain way is actually a certain person or whatever. But if you actually read that again, Ephesians 5:11, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. It's our job to expose them, to say, hey, it's okay to not be part of Halloween. And I want people to start feeling comfortable not participating in it. And our church is actually doing like a festival. So it's like a fall festival. They still want people to have fun, do the hay rides, like eat the fun candy and things like that. Like you can still have fun and really celebrate fall, because I know, like, I'm not like a brown. I don't like brown and orange, okay? You're like into it. So Val is actually like, how do you feel about fall?
I love fall. I think fall is the best. It's just, for me, it's like the cool weather. I love a breeze. It's funny because I live in Florida now, but I do love when it gets like 50s, 60s, and you can be outside with a warm campfire.
Sweater weather.
Yeah, sweater weather.
Yeah.
So I love it. I thrive in that environment. I'm like a person who is always carrying at least 3 jackets. Like, what if our car breaks down on the side of the road? Again, I live in Florida. I should not have kept this part of me, but fall it's one of my favorite seasons. So being able to celebrate that without all of the like demonic negative energy that, for me, like, I agree, is mostly negative, if not all negative, would be awesome. So I like that that's something they're offering.
Okay, so let's start that. So starting today, because it might be Halloween, it might be after Halloween then when you see this, but just think about it for next time, that we can still celebrate fall. We can still celebrate parts of Halloween, but we don't have to put the demonic darkness on it and participate with the devil, because we really want you to start thinking about the supernatural, amazing promises that God has for you. And if you start participating and letting yourself get exposed to these demonic things, it's going to start chipping away at everything light and everything positive that you have going on in your life. So we rebuke the darkness in Jesus' name, and we hope to see you on the next episode. And until then, stay elevated.